Welcome to the show where we talk all things weightlifting. I'm your host, Seb aka the voice of the people, and this is the Weightlifting House podcast. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the Weightlifting House podcast with your host, Seb the voice of the people, joined by the people's scientist, Joshua Gibson, the man who has not only since we started this, well, before we clicked record, he referred to his clothes as jammers, which is just terrible. He's walking around in a pair of baggy clothes. He's swigging coffee. He's already smiling and shaking his head as we do the intro. I don't know why. Joshua Gibson, what's going on?
Happy to be here.
Jammies? Really?
I mean,
You're 33.
That was an intimate comment made between two best friends that you happen to make public and known to the internet. So thank you for that.
Yep, thousands of people now know about jammies. Jim jams.
I'm drinking coffee, and it's some of the best coffee I probably had in my life.
Hold up.
Yeah.
Let me just interject. Speaking of coffee, and you claiming that's good coffee, have you seen Zach Tellender's series? Coach ZT obviously used to be a huge name in weightlifting and now is basically exclusively in music and the content game and doing exceptionally well from what I gather. Talented guy. And he went viral whilst doing a tour in Australia because he was doing this series like going to random coffee places in Australia until I find a bad coffee. And every coffee was just unbelievably good. Yeah. And he said compared to the US coffee, it's just unbelievable. Then he went back to the USA and every coffee was terrible. Yeah. So what is wrong with your coffee?
I don't know. I've never been to Australia.
Right. So you don't know what lies outside of the borders of the USA.
I will say though,
you've never had. I tell you what, it hits different. I've been there and done this. Sitting in the cobbled streets of France or Italy, sitting out with a nice espresso, that hits different to going to the Starbucks down the road in the UK.
Yeah. I mean, it would be, and fair enough, like I would be interested in hearing people from Australia rating American coffee, like coffee from the States, because I think what you just mentioned is how important context is. It's like me sitting on a balcony in San Francisco overlooking the ocean and it's 70 degrees and sunny and it's like 10 a.m. and I'm ready to work on a paper or write or read,
you can't have a bad coffee.
You can't have a bad coffee. Like you cannot have even bad coffee would be just so satisfying, so deeply satisfying.
It would.
Context. Yeah.
And you know what? Some of the best coffee I ever had was when we reused the grounds 3 times over at Glenn's training camps because the atmosphere was like, we're going to go max out for the 3rd time today. It's 5 p.m. Everyone's just slammed 2 monsters and we need some more coffee. And that coffee was some of the best coffee ever. So I know what you mean. Context is key. And you don't know what you're missing. It's like how, if we're going to do these analogies, which we're big fans of on the podcast, you don't know, as Zach would put it, the American mind cannot comprehend coffee outside of the USA. It's like when you're training in a gym and you think that the guy who snatches 120 is strong.
Yep.
And then, like, I remember, did I tell you this, or was I talking with Nick about it? I can't remember when Nick first went to an international and he saw Robu snatch 160, and he was just like, that first day, he was completely shocked. He was like, "What is happening?" Yeah. And we always talk about the levels to it. We've used, I don't know why we've used Ryan Grimsland as an example a few times, but Max and I used to do this. We'd be like, Ryan's really good. And then you go, well, Harrison Maurus was better.
Yeah.
Harrison clean jerk 200 at 77. And then you go, well, Lu Xiaojun did 211. And you're like, well, Asen Zlatev did 225 at 82. So it's like, there's like so many levels where unless you like get your mind out of it, you don't realize how locked into what is possible. Yeah.
Well, and I think as you make those comparisons, you have to pull in more and more specific data. Like as you even mentioned Harrison, I thought about CJ and how like unmatched he was front squatting like 250 at he was probably 80 kilos. I have no 69. Idea.
CJ was like he was a 69 at the time. He probably weighed like 72.
Wow. Which is like insanity, right?
Yeah. She's a young level.
Smashes a 250 front squat. He's like outside, like on, asphalt, like dead of summer probably, just like smashing one of the biggest front squats I've seen. And shout out to Wes Kitts, just snatched 185 for an all-time PR, and probably his first PR in a decade, like snatch PR.
I want to talk about that, by the way.
Yeah, and I think whenever that happens, whenever Lasha smokes a 260 whatever clean and jerk, if I walked over that bar and picked up one end of it, how heavy would that motherfucker be? It's like, that's going to be a very, very heavy barbell, and that's going to be very hard to move. And Wes is like, I mean, he looked pretty good in terms of like bar speed. Like, it didn't look like a maximum attempt. Like he probably has 190 in the holster. So you walk over to it, you try to move it, and you're like,
you're so American.
You're like, I can barely move this bar, and he's like whipping it overhead. And I think that then you start to get into the levels of weightlifting, and you eventually get to the Lasha, the Vardanian. You get into, those guys.
It gets silly. Yeah, 100%. I love how we were talking about coffee, and then it turned into this. So you've got your coffee. Your coffee's going well. You're about to ask me a question before we hit play, which wasn't the topic we were going to cover, but it was an interesting question. I'm going to say that you hold on to that for another few moments. That question's about watching weightlifting, how much of it I still do and how much you still do. I want to just pick up quickly. Wes Kitts just snatched 185. Obviously, he's competing for the enhanced games. I feel, to me personally, the Weightlifting House podcast is the only place publicly through like Weightlifting House where I feel sort of happy to sit and chat a little bit about the enhanced games. It feels like it's the least official outlet, and it's the group of people listening who I know the most, basically. So I know that it's kind of okay to have a bit of a chat about it. I said, when Wes started on this journey of competing at the enhanced games, I said, well, he's obviously not going to snatch 198 for the world record. When I saw the 185, and I guess I realized that they were only 2 weeks into the protocol, even though I think that there's been some enhancement before that, but that's just my theory personally. When I saw that 185, I thought, okay, well, you've got another 7 weeks. You're definitely going to be able to do 190. You might be able to do 195. It's like, okay, actually, I might have to sort of, I don't remember if I said any of this publicly, but even just thinking about it, I'm going to have to sort of express that I got it wrong. I mean, we have to wait and see, but I mean, I would just be shocked if he did 198 and outsnatched Juraev, but who knows? I mean, maybe he's going to be snatching in the mid-90s, which I did not expect to happen, but I suppose why wouldn't I have? I mean, you put an elite lifter and you give them a however many month course of PEDs, of course they're going to improve. But it's just kind of, it's only 185 so far, but let's just wait and see.
Yeah. Well, I think what we have to do to create like a probability is look at previous data points. And he snatched 180, I believe, at Rogue in 2016. And since
2017.
It is 2017. And he snatched 170s pretty much. It's like from that point on, he was in the like low to climbing 170s. Never was able to touch 180 in comp.
He might have made 77, I think.
I think that was about right. Which is like,
and 23.
Props to him. Honestly, I remember him
big lift.
As a 110 earlier on, or whatever the weight class was, like as a heavyweight earlier on.
105 actually.
Yeah, and he was snatching like 173, 175, 176, and then he there was like that hiatus or something where he like dropped to 102, and I was like, I don't think he'll ever exceed his past performances, and I mean he did. Like he was snatching better. Clean and jerking still like 210, I think, around those weights. So clean and jerk really hadn't taken off. He snatched the 185 with straps, knowing that he has never matched his all-time best in competition. I would say I like the number that sticks out in my head is like a 190, 192. But even then, I have like a 187. If he does
190, I'll be really impressed.
Yeah, 187 feels more realistic.
Is 187 what Ian Wilson hit? When he went enhanced?
I think that was what he snatched in training. But in comp, he like he was like 175.
Yeah, but he kind of didn't though, because he blasted after the comp.
Yeah,
he was on during the comp, but he pushed it afterwards. From what I gather.
Yeah.
That was such a weird thing when so many people. I mean, I have to I don't think people should be taking gear and then competing internationally. But it was very interesting to see a certain type of American fan who hated PEDs and said that America was clean and we hate all these other countries for doing it. And then Ian did it, and they were like, hell yeah, we love Ian. He did it. He showed them what was possible.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter to them that he got popped, and he did it internationally as well. It was just kind of interesting to see how people's morals change when it's their favorite athlete doing it.
Yeah. I understand why you would be frustrated by what Ian did. Like, I think, speaking out of both sides of your mouth is one thing, but saying like, okay, that was an objectively wrong thing to do, Ian. And it's not because like you deciding what you want to do for your body and your performance is wrong. It's that you're displacing someone else and you're displacing other people.
Yeah.
Because you absolutely blasted and took their spot on an international team that they may never get back. So
it's not even critiquing Ian as much as it is critiquing the people who observed it and switched their feelings about the whole doping situation based on one athlete that they actually have an affinity with, switching sides.
Yeah,
that's what I found the most interesting.
Yeah, well, I think on my end, it's kind of a funny story, but like I remember being like, Ian, this is insane, that's unbelievable, and like I got crucified for that, and then Ian got crucified for that, and so on my end, like I'm sure there was a space in the internet where people were like, Ian, let's go, like 200, 240. I saw it from like, okay, people are very upset and they are vocalizing it and they're making it known. So I mean, I just had a slightly different experience of that.
I actually have a memory. I remember where I was because I was in a unique place and I was getting unique messages from him compared to like your average text message that you get. And I was at a log cabin with some friends, and we were there for like the weekend, like drinking and just like having a good time. It's like a bit of a weekend getaway. And I remember he was messaging me on an app. I can't even remember what it's called now, but it's like an encrypted messaging app. That's all he would use, where you could send photos or videos, but you couldn't try and screen record or take photos. It would just block you every time. So there was no way I could take these videos and show anyone that it was happening. And I remember that, but he was very, I don't know, is paranoid the right word? Maybe not. But it's sort of paranoid or concerned about the information that he was putting out there to people like me becoming a thing. But then obviously he then posted them. He chose to post it all publicly and took the heat that came with it.
Yeah, I guess this kind of fits into the conversation we wanted to get into. I mean, at least one of them. But when we watch Ian do that, like blasted hard, 87, 227, and then competed at Worlds and did like 70, 75.
I think he did those numbers afterwards.
So I thought the videos were released prior.
No.
Okay.
He didn't release it and then go to Worlds.
Okay. It was after Worlds.
No, so he went to Worlds because I remember I remember seeing him at that Worlds, and it was December 2021 in Uzbekistan. And when I went to this log cabin, that was like February kind of time, is my memory of it. So it was either February of 2 months later or a year and 2 months later. But it was definitely after that World Championships that the videos came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like my estimation of it, and I'm kind of curious to hear how you read it on the international scene, is when, people are in the deep off season and maximizing their performance. Generally, you see it taper off when they compete, and that's like that's like doping management. That's like testing management.
Yeah.
So I thought Ian was hit by that. Maybe those lifts came after the fact when he's like, all right, I don't have to try and quote unquote cycle off, whatever that means, like cycle off for it. Internationally, I feel like we've seen that trend, and maybe it's not as prevalent now. But
I don't think it is.
In the previous podcast, you mentioned Ilya competing at the British Champs 2019.
Yeah. And
he did 60-90. And I remember this is the absolute fall from grace. And Ilya is no longer Ilya, And he tried to build back up and try to whatever. But like, I was like, wow, that like they're two different people. Do you feel like that margin, like that gap has narrowed a lot? Because
definitely.
We have to assume two things. People are still doping and people are still trying to pass tests. So it's more so
I believe people are doping to a much lesser extent at the moment.
Do you think they're not like less people or like less absolute people, like number of people are doping, or like the amounts in drugs are less? Okay.
Both, because everybody's performances have come down and there are fewer superstars within each category. Like, if you look at 2000, I'm not calling any of these people out, but if you look at 2015 85s, the 85 class, there might have been, I don't know, there were like 8 people who were all sick. They were all amazing. Whereas now you might take a class and be like, okay, there's 1 or 2 who are particular standouts. And I'm not calling them on drugs or anything. I wouldn't. Yeah. I don't like this idea of just picking people because they're good. I think personally, genuinely believe you can win the Olympics in weightlifting, and I believe people do clean. Yeah, I don't necessarily think it has happened much in the past, but I think it happens now. That's going to get clipped and people will disagree with me and call me an idiot, but trust me. Well, no, don't trust me that I'm right. Trust me, that's what I believe. I mean, I've thought about this more than most people, and I know the athletes more than most people. But yeah, I think there are fewer people doing it. And from what so this is always murky when I start talking about things like this. So I specifically don't use names. But from what I hear from people, certain athletes in the teams are given the green light. It's not at all like a country is like, oh, we're just dope. It's more like
not anymore.
This athlete and that athlete might be able to. But I think it happens way less now. And for example, like if you take like that heavyweight category, it used to be 105, it's now 110 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Everyone was snatching over 200 kilos in competition. Sorry, in training.
Yeah.
I mean, Tarokti did it. Delega did it. Klokov did it. Akayev did it.
Yeah.
2008 champion Aromnow did it. Like everyone was snatching they were snatching 205. It was just what you did at that body weight.
Yeah.
Now, the last time we saw someone snatch over 200 was a training lift from Akbar Drive, who's Olympic champion and world record holder.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it just isn't happening as much, and the absolute level is lower because everyone was snatching 190. Nuruddinov was doing it, Ilya did it, and they're at the lower end.
Yeah,
they were like the worst snatchers compared to those other people.
Relative.
And they were still getting 90, 91, 92.
Yeah.
And now everyone's getting, your best snatchers, you're looking at Karapetyan's getting 85, 86.
Clean and jerk, a kilo less.
Yeah, different Karapetyan, but yeah, good point.
Okay. Nice.
You're thinking about the now 89, but yeah, Garrett Karapetyan's like 185, Ruslan 84. Like they're all in the mid. If anyone snatches 188, you're getting a medal now. Whereas in the past, that was like, to get into the A session. So like people's standards have come down on average, and there are fewer people at the top. So I think like the dosages are lower if it's happening, and the number of people is definitely, it's just not. I just don't think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you could look at like USA Nationals and be like, oh wow, this women's whatever category is more impressive than the European champs category.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, like they can rival it sometimes.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, if not in depth, like every champion or half of the champions could have been US. And that's not me calling out the USA. I'm just calling out like, I think people are surprised because they just look at surface headlines and they're like, oh, these lifters are so good, they must be doing it. They don't actually watch competitions as a whole. Like I sit through every A session at every competition commentating. You're watching the weightlifting is amazing, but it's not like, I'm watching a lot of sessions where people are snatching stuff that I'm like, I've just seen this like at national championships all around the world for so many years. It's just not groundbreaking stuff. You're just like a good athlete and you're strong and you're a good weightlifter. But, there are very few like crazy lifters where you're like, wow, you've got a real edge on everyone else.
Yeah. Do you think then like knowing that absolute performances have come down, the thing that separates or delineates like someone who's a superstar versus someone who's not is almost purely the way they carry themselves and like the kind of like the culture of their performances? I mean, because at least from your perspective, if you sat through every A session, for years and years and years at major international competitions, like what gets you excited? What impresses you? Like how does someone separate themselves from the pack Is it just absolute weight on the bar? Is it their weight on the bar?
In terms of like, okay, so not just in terms of ability, but just like who gets me going?
Yeah.
Who gets me excited to watch?
Yeah.
It's either just crazy eliteness. Like, I still love watching somebody come out and open up after everyone else is finished.
Yeah.
It's still fun. I like seeing Olivia come out at 1:15 and the game's over. Like, that's fun. I like Carlos. No, that stuff is good fun. But I also love the battles. Like, when it's tight, you don't even need some superstars. But like the men's 71s at Worlds, I always go back to this session. Like, of the people who competed there, none of them are in the top 20 most well-known like athletes in the world in weightlifting. But it was the best session by far. It was just so close. It was so epic.
Yeah.
And then there's like a personality thing. So, for example, there's a new guy called Yadiga Yambeji or something from Kazakhstan, and when he walks on, he hypes up the crowd.
Yeah.
He holds a bar overhead. He looks to the side. He smiles. He does a cheeky dance. I want to see that guy lift again. Like, he doesn't need to win, but him coming on makes the session better. Miso back in the day when he was in 85 in 2016 and 15, and he'd turn, and the whole crowd absolutely loved him. Aishiro Murakami, he like raises his fist in temper, and he's like, I'm gonna get this. Like, those sort of personalities coming out. Abdo's going to have it more and more because he comes out and he gets really hyped up. He almost looks so emotionally charged. He could almost be crying. Like, it's that kind of level. That's fun. And if it was, in terms of the personality that you get on the platform, Lasha, Carlos, they don't give you much. You get a celebration from Carlos and he punches the air, and he actually tore his shoulder doing that. But like, those guys, you're there really because you're witnessing something that will be referred back to in the history books. You're not going to refer back to, this Kazakh guy in the future. You just remember it because he made the session fun, but he's not in the history books. So there's a real mix of like, I love the best of the best. I just find that I love seeing people try to break records. I love watching Akbar. I love watching Olivia, people like that. Olivia's got obviously she's got personality on the platform. They all do to some degree. She has it maybe more than those three guys I just mentioned, to be fair. She skips off the platform with her arms straight and her hands like wrists extended. Like, she does this like funny like skip off the platform. Yeah. She like smiles and nods to herself on the way up to the bar. She smirks as she approaches the bar like everyone's about to see something crazy, and I don't even know if it's going to happen, but let's just give it a go. Which, like, that's just fun to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, personality is huge. When people are showing no personality, it's very difficult to get behind them.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's not that they should do that. No one should feel obligated to have a personality on the platform. But when you do, you get a superstar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, and this comes back to the question I asked you before we started recording, which is, do you still watch weightlifting? Like,
what do you mean by that?
Like, it's very obvious. Like, okay, you go to competitions and commentate. And the example I was going to give this morning, I woke up and I wanted to work on write on a paper we're going to get published, looking at competition attempts in weightlifting over, like an 11-year span, and all the attempts that were taken at like international level, kind of national level, continental level. And I pull up on YouTube a Juggernaut training video with Max coaching in Max's gym. And I start watching and I'm like, oh, this is really cool to see Max coaching and see Alyssa Ritchie and Alex LaChance and Shakasia and all of them just like slinging weights and going heavy. And it was like a training camp they were running in Oakland, California. And I was watching, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the shit. Like, this is, I still love this. Do you find yourself from time to time drifting to fan of the sport, where you watch weightlifting for weightlifting's sake versus, I'm on social media and it's in front of me, or I'm doing research for these projects or the news show or whatever?
Right. I'm going to answer that. But before I do, you reminded me of something, which is interesting. You said about Max, those videos, because the other day a Juggernaut video popped up for me, and it was strength programming for weightlifting versus powerlifting. And it had Chad and Max in it presenting the differences. Yeah. And I remember, when you can sort of hover over a video now and it shows you the preview, like it sort of starts playing. Yeah. I did that and I was like, okay, the information here, at the time of this, it wasn't very easy to get. So that's why people watch this video. But they're just writing on a board. Like, it's not there's no like cool graphics, whatever. But they did have this guy who was their editor, whose name I can't remember now. But Shorty, yeah, there we go. Presumably a nickname. Yeah. But who knows?
He's short.
Maybe that was his actual name. Yeah, last name Torley. But he apparently, I remember Max saying to me when we first started working together, he's like, you just need to find yourself someone like him. He's like, because you've got like the knowledge and the information, but you just don't present it well enough. And it's funny because then obviously we found Tristan, and then we found Nate, and then we found Alex, and we have like a host of editors now who are all really good. But like my knowledge in weightlifting it always improves because I get more context. Yeah. But it's not radical. It's not 5 times better than it was a few years ago. I just know a bit more. And it's interesting how right Max was in many ways, because now the videos are just packaged better, and it's not me sat in my bedroom, and it's got like nice editing, and they tell me what to do with the lighting. Yeah. And I always think back to Max saying that. And at the time I sort of knew he was right, but I thought, I don't know how to do that. And then we sort of got lucky by finding Tristan initially. So shout out to Max for that piece of advice, because it did actually turn out to pay off. But having somebody who makes your information enjoyable to watch is really valuable in terms of, getting a following or whatever. It would be the same for you, for example, like your knowledge, your ability to do podcasts and write and research. If you had someone next to you who was full-time, let's make this, package it and make it look great and listen, it's just how it works, sort of thing.
Yeah. I don't know if but to mention it like explicit on a podcast that I'm moving to California in like a month and a half to.
You didn't tell me it was a month.
Yeah. It's like it's probably going to be like the end of May or like June. Yeah. And
I feel like we've spoken about it a lot, so I don't know what was recorded or not.
Yeah. A lot of that is, I just like, you have to concede that like when I first moved out there, I was a different person than I'm now. And going out there now, I'm like, I can conceive of that. And now it's actually treating it, and I used you as an example because Max and I spoke yesterday, and it's like, okay, show up. We have, coach in the morning, but it's like, okay, we have a 6-hour block of creating content, remote coaching, these things that need to get done. Yeah. And it's like, okay, we need to like structure this to work in an office and, drink coffee and hang out. But like to work in an office and be productive for 6 hours and then coach and then, hey, like close the laptop and that's it. And I think, the last time we tried to do it, it was very much kind of shoot from the hip. Like, let's go to a coffee shop and hang out. Let's go to this gym and hang out. Like, let's film some content. But it was so disorganized, so not done well. So you can have, in theory, Max's experience and my experience, which is 35 plus years of coaching at all levels. But it's so poorly applied that like, it's kind of useless from like a impact standpoint. Max got an editor, I won't say it recently, but it's been, maybe the last year or so. And his following's grown. He's been producing content more consistently. It's much higher quality content. And like his
videos on YouTube are good.
Yeah, there's a tangible impact. Right? There's like a very meaningful impact. So going out, it's like, okay, we have a much more solidified plan. He has more project management experience. I actually have more experience executing on projects and doing them. It's like, all right, now we have a framework by which we can utilize our skill sets well. So it's really exciting to think like you just have to be plugged into the right system. Yeah. And to for you, that was like kind of building it out. For me, it's like, okay, Max has started to build that out, has done a good job of that. So it's like, now we can utilize ourselves well and not overextend ourselves or over expect, you're a coach, but like you should do the content stuff. And it's like, I shouldn't do the film. I shouldn't do the editing. I shouldn't do those things. You should just like,
no, you shouldn't
film, educate, create, build, and then have someone
don't spread yourselves too thin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I would be, having tried a lot of different types of content, I would say pick the thing that works or the two things and just try and do twice as much of that rather than trying to, do 2 new types of formats or something like that.
Yeah.
Would be my suggestion there. But yeah, I think you going out and living with Max again is just going to be so much fun. I think you'll have a great time. And hopefully a productive time as well. So yeah, it's very, very
agreed.
cool.
Agreed.
Shall I shall I answer that watching weightlifting thing? How much weightlifting do I still watch is what you asked me, basically.
Do you find yourself, it's 11 p.m., lights are down, it's dimly lit room, kind of alone, family somewhere else. You pull up a Kayev.
What are you setting up?
Shooting an AK-47 in a parking lot. I don't like.
Right.
Do you find yourself going back to?
Do I watch the old school videos?
You watch competitions and rewatch just for the sake of rewatching a competition?
No. No, is the truth of it. I don't.
No.
Yeah. I mean, but do I watch weightlifting content so much? I mean, I'm scrolling through Instagram, saving the biggest lifts that happen. Other people at Weightlifting House are finding the biggest lifts and putting them into a big lifts thread that we have.
Yeah.
So that I see everything big that happens. I'm then writing the news show, so I rewatch those videos. I'm doing a video about, Armenian heavyweight weightlifters at the moment. So I'll do loads of research. I've reread the Wikipedia pages of Gore and Lalian and Simone multiple times this week. I go back through their event history. I remember who hit at what competition. I'm in the results of the 2025 world champs and European champs and Asian champs multiple times every week. All the time. I'm constantly going back and looking at historic world records. I'm looking at who did what when. So I'm so heavily looking at weightlifting. I'm just not going back and being I'm going to rewatch Spencer Mormon snatching 161 barefoot or rewatching. I mean, when I was at Worlds, we did actually go back and rewatch loads of ATG videos. I think I said this on the podcast. We watch loads of ATG videos while we're just hanging out or while there's other editing work being done. We just put it on in the background. And when I told Gregor, who runs ATG, he was like, "No, you're lying." I was like, "No, I promise you." And he said, "Oh, well, you guys really like weightlifting." I was like, "Yeah, we fucking love it."
We love it.
We can't get enough. So in those sorts of situations where, I'm with a bunch, if I was with you and Max.
Yeah, we'd be watching weightlifting.
Colby or whatever, we would pull it up and we'd put it on and we'd sit and watch it. It's great. But my life is too busy for me to sit and watch, I'm going to go back and watch, whatever it is, Hisen Pelaku take 5 attempts at 211. I just don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But the benefit is that when I had absolutely nothing to do in my life back in the day, I watched those videos 79 times each. So I still know every single thing that happens and I can draw back to it. But I don't find myself rewatching weightlifting out of... If the only outcome is for pure enjoyment, which is a shame, I don't find myself doing that.
Yeah.
I get lots of enjoyment out of it, but I'm doing it because I need to make a video or I need to do some research for something.
How does it feel? How does it feel knowing, you mentioned ATG, but how does it feel knowing you're having that impact? And so I actually mentioned this to you in I don't know, it might've been a voice note. No, I think it was a message on WhatsApp. I was in the rec center at WVU, West Virginia University lifting. And there's a kid who's on the West Virginia weightlifting team next to me. And we're talking and he's like, "Oh, Seb, yeah." He's like, "I was watching his Lasha video because I was rewatching it because Seb has so much aura." And I was like, okay, so this kid in a rec center in West Virginia is watching this Lasha video over and over and over because Seb has quote unquote aura. And I was like, holy shit. So how, knowing that, how do you feel knowing that the content you used to watch 1,001 times, I mean, there's probably an overwhelming amount of people who are doing that with Weightlifting House, the news show, all the documentaries, they're watching that and that's creating that foundation that you just mentioned. Ours was a little different, right? It's Cal Strength and Podium Gold and, Ian Wilson's Barn, but...
It probably doesn't make it. It's probably how most people feel with things that they get habituated. I could remember the first 2 videos I ever edited properly. After you and I did our little tour around California, after those ones, I'm talking when I went to Worlds and I did training videos. I did a Team China one and then I did a Lasha one.
Yeah.
Both of them got hundreds of thousands of views. That felt amazing because it was wow, the YouTube scene, the culture that I'm so involved in has just had these 2 new videos and all those people are watching them and this is spectacular. And now it feels a lot more like nobody else is really posting. Like there aren't gyms who get massive views anymore. ATG and Hook Grip don't post anymore. So like it now feels a lot more like it's a process. Like we have to put out videos. If we don't do it, there isn't weightlifting on YouTube.
Yeah.
I still get immense satisfaction out of writing a good script. You know, I enjoy recording the news show. But it doesn't feel, I imagine it feels how like training feels to a lot of people who've been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah.
You know, when you first do it, you can't think of anything else except it all the time. And then at some point it's a little bit like, I put my shoes in my car, I drive to the gym and I go and lift because it's what I do. You know, you're not necessarily doing anything different. In fact, you're probably better at training than you were when you started, and we're better at making videos. But there's less of like, you know, when you click publish on YouTube, it gives you your ranking out of 10. And if you get a really good video, it gives like confetti every time you reload the page.
Yeah.
You know, that was like a massive deal back in the day. And if a video did poorly, it would ruin my day. If I put up a video now and it underperforms, it almost makes no difference to my mood. Whereas in the past, it would have fluctuated me. And if I get a 1 out of 10, it does really well. It doesn't really make me feel that much better. It's just like, great, that video is connecting in a way, probably because it maybe had a bigger named athlete on it or whatever. So like, I don't get the buzz as much on that side of things. I get a buzz when you go to competition. It's like, okay, this is fresh and new again, so it's exciting.
Yeah.
But you know, the day-to-day uploading of videos and content, I'm just grateful that we're the place that people go to watch the stuff. But I'm not like losing my mind every time we post a video like I used to back in the day when you and I would upload a vlog where we'd go and train at Max's gym or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were good times.
They're great times.
Yeah. Yeah, you always want to go back and tell yourself, like, just so you know you're living in that golden era right now. And the problem is, like, you're always in the golden era, you just don't realize it. Yeah. So you just got to, at some point, accept that this probably is something you're going to look back on and think that's amazing. And I know I'll look back on this current period of my life, especially with a baby, and you know the company's growing at an exciting rate, all those sorts of things. I'll look back at this and be like, that was the time. Yeah. It was never better. So then you kind of got to recognize, okay, I need to just realize I'm living in that right now and soak it up and not let stresses of things that haven't even happened yet or whatever cloud any of my moment. Like I've just got to realize where I am.
I was listening to a podcast on Nietzsche yesterday, and the concept of like I forget what it's called, but like recurrence or recurring something, and but it was around this idea of like, if you had to live your lifetime over and over and over again, would it be something that you would basically say yes to? And I actually had a hard think about, when I say a hard think, I thought about it for like 15 seconds, but like I had a hard think about like, would I live this over again? And how would I feel like satisfied or fulfilled? And that's like,
I'd love to.
It's a serious question, right? It's a serious question. And I think that what you're kind of striking upon, and what I was thinking as you're mentioning that, is like, there's a point where you're trying to get in, and then when you are, you realize, one, like, oh, holy shit, this is actually like really cool. But like also it took people to get there, and it took like the right circumstances. It doesn't just happen, you know. And I think for people who, you know, maybe listen to this podcast, like, I know people personally, and maybe this is getting waxing too philosophically or whatever, but like, I know people personally who are like very dissatisfied with their life and where they're at and what they're doing. It's like, fucking like cleave it, change it, cauterize it, whatever, like move on, like find the thing, you know, the whole attitude nation, love your life or change it. And kind of what you're talking about is like, okay, develop this business, develop this like life where I can exist in weightlifting solely. And you don't get those huge spikes or huge like troughs in terms of like emotional fluctuations, but like there's just this well-recognized gratitude that at some point I'll look back on this and think like, that was like what we refer to when we think about Cal Strength as like the golden age, right? It's like those were the days, and you don't realize you're living them until retrospectively you're like, holy shit, what I would give to have those back. And I think the idea of like feeling that, of like, what would I give to have those back, that's the appropriate feeling of life well lived. And there's a little bit.
That. I mean, yeah.
There's the last thing I'll say is there's a little bit. If people are interested, the Seneca wrote something, and it's called "On the Shortness of Life," and he basically says that in a paragraph of like a properly well-lived life is used well and applied well, and it's just like an investment, right? And it's finding ways to allocate that, that makes it well used. That makes, that amount of time worth living. Life isn't inherently short. It's just when it's poorly used, it feels like we don't have enough of it. But when used well, when invested well, and I kind of think about this, like there's actually more than enough. More than enough.
Yeah. I mean, if I look back at so many, I mean, just I've gone through things that are challenging and have been tough in my life, but all the years that have happened in the past, there's something about them that was wonderful. Like the joys of being a teenager, and going out in the evenings and having friends, and then going to university and not turning up to lectures and training, all these, and then starting a weightlifting house and having no money and all these things. There's like this wonderful joy in all of those things. It's just that at the time you're so overwhelmed in many ways by some of the difficulties that you're facing. And so kind of recognizing that the difficulties aren't the things that live with you in the future, and that the difficulties you feel right now, you're not going to think about too much, but you will remember, the stage of life that you're at and the people that you spend your time with and what you sort of get up to in the days, can just really, at least for me, help me appreciate life. I think a little bit more about it all these days because I have a daughter, so I think about it more. I don't want to talk about it that much because I think it actually gets quite like airy-fairy and like, a little bit wishy-washy, and it's not that interesting to listen to two weightlifting people talking about, their own mortality. But I do think about it more, and I try more and more. I think I said to you in a voice note maybe 3 or 4 months ago that the phrase that I'm sort of meditating on is this idea of be where you are. So just, it's so easy to have your mind, drift to other places. You're at work and you're thinking about home. You're at home, you're thinking about work. You're at the gym and you're thinking about what you're supposed to be doing at the weekend, or you're cooking or whatever. Just when you're at the gym, just be at the gym. Just be where you are. When you're at work, be at work. When you're at home playing with your family, be at home playing with your family. And just by doing that, I think you then feel like your time is you're not wasting any time. You're being where you are. It's like when you look back at a day and you're like, wow, when I was at work, I didn't really get anything done. And when I was at home, I was stressing about work. You're like, it was a wasted day. But if you just are where you are, which is easier said than done, it at least for me, it's kind of helping a bit, make sure that I make the most of every day that I've got.
Yeah. And well, obviously, I mean, I don't like thinking about the move to California to work in Max. I kind of mentioned this to you. You're like, man, that would be so much fun, and I'd love to. I would have loved to do that, and I think that
it could be the golden years again. You've got to, when you're there, you've got to appreciate. I'm going to be waking up. I'm going to be going to get coffee. I'm going to be hanging out with Max at the gym all day. Whatever stresses you feel, you won't remember them.
Yeah.
When you look back at your time living there again, so just live it. Just you got to do it.
Well, someone asked me like, why'd you get a PhD to do that? And it's like, well, one, I just did it because I wanted to. Like, I just like literally that's the only reason I did it. And it's like, okay, but it after the fact will provide some sort of security. But with that being said, if I can sustain my life and live in California coaching, that is unmatched from a lifestyle standpoint.
That's unreal.
And I think like the kind of the point of all this, and to kind of round it out, and like what I hear you saying is you want to be in a place where like being present, like being where your feet are, actually makes sense, right? Like I think a lot of people could find themselves like dissociating or wishing they were somewhere else doing something else, occupying, busying themselves. Like the point is to want to be where your feet are because it's actually the coolest fucking thing. Like training is the coolest fucking thing. If you're listening to this podcast right now and you have it on, like weightlifting is fucking badass. So when you're weightlifting, like be a fucking weightlifter and weightlift. Like I snatch and clean and jerk, be locked in, Like, fucking dial in your technique, dial in your movement. That's why we're doing it. Like, we're not, like, we have ultimate outcomes that we're, like, hoping for, like, be jacked and strong and whatever. But, like, weightlifting is the thing. So when you weightlift, like, weightlift. When you work, like, hopefully you want to be where you are when you're working. If you're not, fucking change it outright. Just change it.
Yeah, not always easy to do.
It's not easy, but, like,
but the option's there.
Yeah,
we often think that we don't have other opportunities, but we do. It's just the friction of moving or changing is often greater than the pain of what we're dealing. And so we choose the easier of the two, which happens to create more long-term total pain because it's less friction than the friction of, a month of looking for a new job and moving.
Yeah, it's the concept of bad faith by Sartre, right? It's like denying your freedom.
Right.
It's denying your freedom and saying, like, I'm an object that exists in this world in a limited capacity, and per existentialism, that's not the case, So
you and your goddamn philosophers.
Yeah, but
do you want to hear my philosophers? John North, Glenn Pendlay, and Ilya Ilyin.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are my philosophers.
That's a life well lived if you have those three guys kind of hovering above you as you make all of your life decisions.
Yeah.
Do you think Lasha is the last person to have? I'm trying to find a way to frame it. I feel like Lasha did something no one's ever done, and I think he did. Yeah. I feel like, is he the last male weightlifter to do that?
Probably.
Yeah.
If we're talking about lifting certain amounts of weight that have never been lifted at a body weight. Yeah. I think we could see things that have never been done in the sense that I think Carlos could win 4 Olympic gold medals, which has never been done. So, which would make him more dominant than anyone has ever been across a period of time, relative to who they're competing with.
Right.
But I don't think Carlos will snatch or clean and jerk more than Botev ever did, for example, or another kind of mid 90 kilo weightlifter. And I don't think anyone who is currently lifting on the men's side will. On the women's side, it's possible. It's possible that we see some women do things that have never been done, but nobody other than Ri Song-gum. Actually, that's not true. There are a few North Koreans. Kim Il-gyong, Ri Suk. Okay, other than the North Korean women, no one's really doing things that haven't been done. Like Olivia is not really that close. Salford's not that close. Park Hye-jeong in the supers is not at all close. Yeah. Some of the smaller North Koreans are doing things that have never happened. 125 clean and jerk at 49 is silly. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane.
2.5 times bodyweight clean and jerk from Ri Song-gum, mad. But it's not going to happen. It's unlikely to happen again on the men's side unless there is no testing. And then, sure, anything can happen again. But I don't see the world moving in that direction, personally. No, that's fine. It's fine. It's just how it is. Nobody might ever run faster than 9.58, realistically. It's just so far ahead. Bolt's 100 meter world record, so far ahead of anyone. It just might never get beaten. And it doesn't make the 100 meters less good. The last Olympic Games was the closest 100 meter final, I think, in Olympic history in terms of the time difference between first and last. Sorry, it was the fastest 100 meters on average. There were fewer, I think everybody ran sub 9.9 and loads of people were right around the 9.82 or something. Nobody ran 9.6 or 9.68 or anything like they used to, but it was still very exciting and you didn't know who won until you got a photo finish. So I don't think absolute levels have to climb for things to get better. Sport is just a story that constantly retells itself, and as long as the story's good, it doesn't matter that we've had loads of, hero leaves the village, goes out, slaughters the dragon, comes back to the village stories. It's not like, they already did that, 10,000 years ago. It's like every story is just basically that, just retold in a different way, and they're just as good, if not better, constantly. Yeah. So it doesn't matter that it's not the original. Yeah. So no, I don't think there'll be another Lasha, but I feel like the clean and jerk super heavyweight world record could be broken one day by someone else. You know, Ali Reza Yousefi, I genuinely feel from Iran, he's capable of it. I just don't have a lot of faith in Iranian weightlifters these days. They just seem so up and down, so many injuries. But you just never know. And now that there's a war going on, like, who knows if we're going to see those guys for a long time anyway.
Yeah.
You know, they've already postponed the Asian Champs. I've heard rumors that they're going to postpone it again. It might even get cancelled.
Wow.
Who knows in 6 months if things are sorted. You know, the World Championships could be very different than the World Championships last year because of it. Who knows how long it all goes on for. So, yeah, we will see.
Yeah. Oh.
Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. All right.
I know I'm not bringing many questions to this podcast. We're just talking. And if you run out of questions, we can just leave it. I don't want to put you under pressure, if you know what I mean.
No, I think the one lift that comes to mind is it Boyanka Kostova?
Kostova, yeah.
Kostova, yeah. She front squatted 210. Is that right?
Oh, that's ridiculous. Yeah, at 50.
Is that insane?
Weighed like 58 or something. Yeah, that might be the best lift ever, actually.
Yeah, that's like insanity.
210 front squat from a 58 kilo woman is such an outlier.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, wasn't there a woman in the USA who was like a 60 or a 58 kilo powerlifter or something around that body range? She might have even been coached by like Chad or Max Newer or something. And she could bench like 140, and she was like a 20% outlier compared to all other women in her weight class or something.
Yeah.
Do you know who I mean? Like,
no.
It's like a US woman she was crazy. And like, as a percentage, her lift was like, I think they worked it out, made her the biggest outlier in any strength lift ever.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find it, but I don't know.
Okay. That's a huge bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just searching the most general USA powerlifter female bench press world record and see if anything comes in. Oh, Jennifer Thompson, that might have been her.
Okay.
Bench
Jen
146 at like 58 or something.
Okay. I don't know the exact weight class, but she's been benching that for a long time too.
But I think she's like, no one is near her from my memory.
Yeah. I don't actually know what the highest raw female bench is of all time, but I imagine that's close.
We're gonna have a little look.
I don't know if there's anyone benching like 150 plus.
I'm having a peek. We're having a look. Okay, 53 kilos. Is this bench or is this? I need to go on IPF realistically, don't I? IPF world records. Okay. So when you go in there, I think you then have to select like classic or raw versus, let's see.
Raw versus like equipped.
Powerlifting world records, world.
Okay.
And then we'll do we don't want equipped, we want classic, I think.
Yeah, classic, yep.
Okay, bench press. Wait, is that real? Oh, those are men. Jesus. It's like there's no way that she just benched
200, like mid 200s, high 200s.
Yeah, it was high. It was big. It was big. Okay, so 57. I guess she's not IPF, but the 57 kilo world record bench is from a woman called Berglund Donna, and she did 123.
That's pretty good.
I think Jen Thompson did like 147. That's really good. I mean, somebody is a world record.
Jen Thompson's bench, in the 140s.
Yeah. I mean, I guess she didn't have a squat and deadlift that were like at that level, maybe. Oh, here we go. Bench press single lift. Jen Thompson, 63 kilo world record, 144.
That's really good.
So
that's very good.
When you compare that to the actual world record that has to be done right in a powerlifting competition rather than a single, it's up by, it's not as much as I thought. It's above the world record, but it's not like a crazy outlier. I think at the time, I just remember Chad Wesley Smith doing a video about it or a podcast. They were talking about the biggest outlying lift, and it was maybe her. And then also, do you remember there was a woman from Taiwan, I think, she was like an older but very small woman, and she back squatted like a crazy lift. Didn't you walk out the bar and it's like it's wonky and they re-rack and it's like over and over again, then eventually she squats like 200 and she weighs like 40 or something. I mean, it's not that, but it's something ridiculous.
I need to find that.
Yeah,
I think yeah. Do you have any, I'm trying to think of like lifts that come to mind that are that freakish. What's the equivalent of that in weightlifting?
Like outliers. Yeah, like Blagoev's 195.5 snatch at 90 kilos body weight is a very big outlier as an individual lift.
I sent you Zakharevich snatching 210 at 110.
When?
I think a while ago. Yeah, I like sent you the video of that. Right. I was like kicking it around. Yeah. Like 210 at 110 is like.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Insane.
But yeah, I mean, bigger Sinclairs are Blagoev's 195.5 and then Naim's 190, right? Yeah. At 60, and he weighed 59.3. Like that's a ridiculous outlier.
Has anyone come close to Naim's snatch? I mean, I know his clean and jerk's just like filthy, but he snatched like 150.
He did 155.
That's insane.
At 60.
I don't know if that's like harder to touch than the 190.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so ridiculous. I'm going to have a look, actually. So his world record, I mean, did he hold the world record in snatch? I feel like he must have done.
He had to.
Yes. Okay, well, 152.5 at 60 was his world record. So if you look at other people at that kind of body weight, no, the world record at 59 was 140, so that's 12.5 kilos below.
Yeah.
The world record at 62, that's massive. Okay, so yes, at 62 kilos, the world record was 154. That's almost on par.
Wow.
2 kilos more in body weight, 2 kilos more, or 1.5 more in the snatch. And then that was a North Korean guy called Kim In-guk.
Oh, yeah.
And then more recently, the 61 kilo world record, which was Lee Farbin, that was 146.
Okay.
So that's like 6.5 kilos less, weighing a kilo more.
I mean, that's a really good snatch.
Yeah. And then currently there's a 60 kilo weight class, so you can actually line it up. And the world standard is 141, but no one's near it.
Yeah, no one's near it.
Like no one's near it at all.
I mean, for everyone listening, myself included, snatching 2.5 times body weight is like, I can't squat that. I couldn't even smell that, on the bar. Like, how impressive that is to jump and shrug and catch it overhead. It's like unbelievable. Yeah. 2.5 times body weight.
I'm actually thinking, like, I've never even loaded for myself 2.5 times body weight for anything. Because I never push my deadlift.
70.
So I've never even loaded it.
I've done a deadlift at like
you have done
times. Yeah.
Yeah, you would have done.
Heavy as a motherfucker.
But to do that and then snatch it, and then add another 2.5 kilos and do it again. It's like,
that's weightlifting, baby.
Yeah. And then do 3 times your body weight and add another 10 kilos and then clean and jerk it.
That's filthy. That is filthy. Most people listening to this podcast are probably like 70 to 90 kilo body weight. That's like a 210. That's like a 210, 270.
Right.
Clean and jerk.
Yeah. Here's a question. If you didn't know any world records in any sport, and then you were just given like free reign to like try the sports out a bit, and then put what you think the records are, like you run 100 meters and then you're like, all right, I just did that in like 14.3. I reckon someone's
got to be 12.
You might write down like, okay, like 11.5 or that. If you did weightlifting first time, you go in the gym and you clean and you
60 kilos.
You're a decent guy. You power clean 70. You're like, okay. Yeah. They're like, okay, write down what you reckon the world record for your weight is. You'd be like, I bet someone can double this. I reckon 140 is possible. And then you find out it's like 230. I think that's the one way you'd be most.
Yeah. I mean,
you'd be just like, there's just no way.
I think if you're a guy, if you're a super heavy coming into weightlifting and you're like, all right, I weigh like, I'm a big guy, I weigh like 230 and I can clean and jerk body weight. Like, all right, I think like, 405 would be that's reaching it. Like that's like 182 would be touching, 185 would be touching. And you're like, Lasha did how much? Like Lasha did 270.
Yeah. Let alone if I had to predict what the women's world records were, I'd be, if someone let me do it and then they're like, okay, now imagine a 48 kilo woman. What do you reckon the world record clean and jerk there? I think I'd be like, if I had never seen weightlifting, I'd be like, I reckon.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if anyone clean and jerked 80 kilos as a 48 kilo woman. And then you find out that that's like a power snatch. You're just like, what?
And I don't know if people have like vivid memories of this. When I walked into the gym, I saw a woman squatting and she was squatting 60 kilos for reps. And I thought, she's damn strong.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
And now
it's decent. Like,
it's good like for Gen Pop.
Yeah.
You know,
and for Gen Pop,
that's
but when you
diminishing
see people training for a speciality.
Yeah.
Yeah. People get so good.
People get really, really good, and you don't realize what the upper limit is. I think Lasha's world records would be the least predictable, because if you're snatching like 500 pounds, I mean, even saying that doesn't feel real.
Is there any sport where you'd overgo? Like you'd over predict a world record? Like, would you ever be like, all right, well, I ran a 14.3. I reckon someone's running a 7.500 or something.
Yeah. I mean,
would you think that someone's running a marathon? Like, if you got to do, because I don't think there's any world where I would run like a 5K and then extrapolate out and think that someone was running like a 1 hour marathon. There's just no way. Yeah. I don't think there are many sports where I think I'd underestimate the world records in every sport.
I think world records based on time would be easier to overestimate in terms of like, wow, that person could run a 40 in like 3 seconds, 40-yard dash or whatever. Like you would be more likely to do that. Nobody's saying you can clean and jerk 700 pounds. People aren't. There's no world.
They almost are cleaning. Yeah. True.
You know,
I don't know. I think as long as you've gone into the gym and rolled around 100 kilos on the bar and tried to lift it off the floor, I then don't think like the audacity to then say that you think someone can clean jerk 300 kilos.
Yeah, that's not
bizarre.
Yeah.
Like you need to have your head checked. Whereas like I can imagine someone being like, okay, well, I reckon maybe someone ran a 39-second 400, and it's okay, they didn't. They ran like 43, but okay, you overestimated that one and you got it wrong.
I think
maybe they could do that.
Do you think anyone could have anticipated the 500 kilo deadlift, like 1,000-pound deadlifts, like raw?
Yeah, 1,100 pound.
That because 1,000 pounds is like that.
Which one are you talking about? 1,000 pounds or 1,100?
I think 1,100 to me is like basically saying 1,000. Because I think once you hit 1,000, it's like that is like.
But like Eddie Hall did, like the crazy thing that Eddie Hall did wasn't 1,000. It was that no one could do 500 kilos, which is 1,100.
I think the idea is like once you crest 1,000, it's like 500 kilos doesn't seem that far off.
Right. Okay.
But getting.
What I don't get now is like. Everyone seems to be deadlifting 1,000 pounds. I just don't understand
Everyone's deadlifting 1,000 pounds.
Everyone. Now. I see
it
in like local meets. It's like some like 220 dude just deadlifted 1,000 pounds with a sumo, and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And also, what I don't get is now it seems like Hafthor can just break the all-time world record whenever he fancies it. He's just like, I'm gonna do a 12-week cycle, and then he'll just pull like 1,004, 1,005. It's just like weird to me, kind of.
I think.
Like, what can you pull, dude? Can you just do 1,200, please?
Well, I think what you can't do, like as you add in complexity, you can change that complexity. Like as you add in bars and plates and equipment, like you can change that. I don't think you can change like a track surface. I mean, you could, but like
no, not
tangibly enough to say like, oh, you're just shaving time off, and you're just continuously shaving time off, because it's such a matter of like human ability. Whereas if I'm pulling on a bar that bends until I'm like locked out and then breaks from the ground, or the plates, or it's like those are tangibly different lifts. I don't even know if you can compare them. It's got to be. Have to be like the same bar across all events for it to be comparable, which I don't know if it is.
Yeah, they did. You remember they did Breaking 2. Which is like Eliud Kipchoge trying to break 2-hour marathon. They did one called Breaking 4, which was trying to get the first woman to run a sub 4-minute mile, which is insane.
Who's
and it
close?
failed. I think
Yeah, how close is like
they ended up with I think it was 4:06 was the finishing time, which is amazing. I mean, it's not just amazing. It's like if she'd have done sub 4, it would have been probably the most impressive run that any human's ever done, to be honest. It'd be so crazy. But she did 4:06, which is insane. But they did like a special shoe that Nike was like releasing for that event.
Yeah.
They had like the perfect like, you know, format of runners in front of her at all times running to make sure that the aerodynamics were like, and basically I think she beat her own world record, which she did in an actual meet with actual people without all of this technical stuff. She beat her world record by like 0.2 of a second.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's like all of that, and it basically didn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Whereas in powerlifting, you can change the bars, and you know you wear a different figure of 8 loop straps, and you get an extra like centimeter of pull. Like there are things that can happen.
I think anyone privy to like statistics, there's the idea of like measurement error, like noise in the measurement. You have technical error of measurement. Like I think that 0.2 seconds could be within this like standard error of measurement. And I think she could have on a different day ran it 2 seconds, 0.2 seconds faster, 0.2 seconds slower,
100%.
5. So I feel like that makes sense. Deadlifting like 1,200.
And one was for the Olympics, and one is for like a Nike event. Like
totally, yeah.
It might have been, you might have just slept a bit better.
Yeah,
you know, there's so much different. Yeah.
But I think deadlifting.
But it's the fact that they do all that and it doesn't increase it by 5 seconds is what surprises me.
That's surprising.
To me, I find that it almost invalidates what Nike is doing.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we're going to bring out this special shoe on a special track. We're running at a certain time of day, which is perfect for like your heat.
Yeah.
And all these things, and you've got all of these people, and we've tested it in like a wind tunnel, do different layouts of athletes in front to see where you have the least air resistance, and they bring it out, and you basically, nothing happened.
Yeah. I wonder how,
It's like, okay, cool.
I wonder how that feels as an athlete who's like, I'm running this race to beat a time. I'm not running this race to beat a person, and everything's constructed for a singular performance versus let's fucking compete, get out there and just like run hard against people. Insane.
Yeah. It's like if you set up, you know, a bar for Carlos to set a world record. And it's like, you don't have 3 attempts. You have as many attempts as you want. There's no like 2-minute clock. You know, you're just going to do this when you're ready.
Yeah.
It's kind of like training in some ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, but I think it's more likely in that situation that he would be able to do it potentially than she would be in that situation.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's more emotion on the line. There's more that goes into it in a race than in a weightlifting competition potentially.
Yeah. Well, I feel
because people don't set world records in.
Exactly.
Are these runners setting world records in training? Probably not. But like the top weightlifters beat their bests in training. They don't just save it for the comp day.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should wrap up.
Yeah, we should. That was fun.
Yeah. I gotta go. So do you, I'm sure.
I do.
Congrats on defending your what is it?
Is
it just defending your PhD or your proposal?
It's like proposal defense. Yeah. So I on Wednesday we're moving some equipment, and then ideally, like in a week and a half, I can start collecting data. You know, start making that final push, and yeah, home stretch.
And then you can go out to California.
Dude, I was freaking out.
Max Eta.
I was so excited. I was like driving, and I was like, I want to pull the steering wheel out of the car because I'm so excited for this thing to like kind of come to a close and transition and change.
Blimey.
I was excited.
Well, I hope you didn't pull the steering wheel off.
I did not. I'm not, in fact, that strong. Yeah, people might assume I am because of how, you know, muscular and handsome and intelligent I look. But
yeah. The size of your neck would suggest otherwise.
It would. I actually do have a very thick neck.
No, I was talking about you having a skinny neck.
Oh, really? It takes one to know one, which is also fun.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I've not got a big neck.
I have a great neck for grabbing.
Nice. Yeah. Yes. For grabbing single-handedly, my neck is unrivaled. Yeah. If you want to choke slam me, you know, if you want to choke slam someone, come
top rope. Top rope.
Yeah. I'm the man for the job. All right, Josh, let's wrap this up. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Go check out Josh _PhilWL. That's PHILWL on Instagram. And the Philosophical Weightlifting Podcast to get more from Josh. It's Weightlifting House everywhere else. We'll catch you all on another episode of the Weightlifting House Podcast.